Welcome to another episode. Today I'm joined by Marko, who's currently leading Jumper, and he's a very good friend. We've worked together for the last 3 years. We've been on multiple trips at this point, so I'm actually really excited for this conversation.
Same. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I mean, let's not beat around the bush too much. Going into like your journey with LI.Fi, when you started out, you were I wouldn't say an intern, but a
You
junior
can say an intern.
marketing, yeah, a
Yeah,
junior
yeah, yeah.
marketing guy, right? And today you're leading Jumper, which is arguably one of the most used applications in crypto at the moment, right? So take us through that journey briefly because it's been 3 years. But yeah, take us through that journey, how you think you've grown and how the company has grown in that time.
Yeah. The past 3 years have been hectic to say the least. Full of a lot of personal challenges to get to this point. So I think first off, it started with me turning passion, like hobby and passion into work. About 3 4 years before LI.Fi, I was losing money and dabbling in the industry, and kind of looking from the outside in. Oh, all these smart people, cool people, so interesting what they're building. I don't know if I would ever be able to kind of. I'm not smart enough or whatever. And then at the time that I joined LI.Fi, kind of multi-chain was this nascent thingy that no one really cared about. But I already had a couple of like personal experience issues by my on-chain behavior where like this is exactly the tech that I needed. And so I was really, really, really hyped. It's kind of the switch from the Web 2 work to this, then actually solving some problems. And so I've just spent enormous amount of time. To correct for my dumbness, if you will. It was also a perfect storm. Philip and Max have like timed building the aggregator, I think at the right time when bridges were really bad, like really bad. And so there was this combination of like, I really love what I do, passionate about it, plus we're solving a problem, plus the market response to it. That kind of culminated in A, our growth, B, my personal development. And I think third as well, something that's maybe not spoken a lot, but like aggregator is actually super well positioned from like a partnership perspective, right? Like any bridge, any DEX, they want to be integrated. You're the kind of better solution than a single bridge for other dApps to integrate you. So really fast, I've gotten access to like top protocols in the industry, like top minds, started talking to them. And so that was, I would say, critical. And like the last of the team, like we've met when you were here, I think like 2 months before me. We hit it off. I think like this early core team of LI.Fi was really passionate. Like doesn't matter what time zone you're in, everybody's online all the time. Where my then girlfriend, current wife, like literally had to plan 2 weekends ahead. Hey, like I agreed to go somewhere. Like, can you not be online on a Saturday or a Sunday? So these were like really, really, really good times, and everybody was like on it. I think you lose that as a company. It's just like with the size, you cannot have that. I think scalable to like 100 to 300 people. And this is also one of the reasons I'm so happy and bullish now in Jumper, because we kind of we're replicating this growth, because the team is currently 9 people and it's like very lean. Everybody's doing a lot more than their assignment is, if you will. But yeah, that's kind of the rundown, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us have been through the same journey, at least those who were kind of the first 10, 15 people, right? Like all of us started working at LI.Fi by somehow using the product first and then like figuring out that, okay, there's a job opportunity, you get the job, and then you grow with the company and also the narrative. Multi-chain was just a thesis at that point. There were not even 3 chains or 4 chains, right? So I don't want to get into the EVM side of multi-chain, but what I really liked about the company was that there were users who were actually Solana users, right? So even though we started from the EVM ecosystem, 2 years ago we were like we have to have Solana because we were just like all of us started in Solana or like had used Solana at some point. So I feel like our company had figured out that we have to support Solana because it just offers something different that EVM can, but it's a different country sort of, right? So I feel like we had that prioritized.
I think, yeah, I think first off, like the difference between EVM and Solana, for me at least, is like, maybe I'm gonna like poke a bit too much, but um, EVM is ivory tower. Solana is this like on the streets type of thing. And so at the point where like 2020 bull market, ETH was like for if you're not like higher net worth, and I wasn't, I was kind of priced out. Like the cost of making a mistake was like pretty decent size in a way, especially if there's like a liquidation event and you have to pay $500 for a transaction to go through, versus Solana, which was just like seamless, just goes through. So I guess you remember as well, like when I joined, I think that like I joined January 2nd, January 4th, there's already messages to me like, hey, when are we going to start supporting Solana? Because I came kind of from that world, much more than EVM. EVM for me came after FTX, which kind of created a sour taste in my mouth. But I think the design space is very different. I think that like the thing I've noticed as a user is Solana. It's much more like commercial. Like it's much more user oriented from a especially UX perspective. Like okay, speed and cost allow it the chain, but it still the developers have built with users in mind. Versus I feel like a lot of like EVM is catching up to that, and like I can't say that is true for EVM today, but like especially like a year ago or 2 years ago, it was true where we know better. Like we the devs, we the founders, we whatever, we know how this should work, and like you as a user are just not like learning enough or trying enough or whatever, right? Like where the barrier should never be on the user, and I think Solana crowd understood that quite well. And then there's this like side thing where because they actually became quote unquote danger in the L1 wars to the EVM, they were kind of dismissed on the side. And so when you like, you can look at it from the political, geopolitical, whatever spectrum you want. If you marginalize a group of people, they will kind of come together and have more camaraderie between each other. And, basically it's something that is now bullish on Solana, after FTX happened and a lot of these things that were not like that weren't nice. Let's call it that way. Like my initial impression was like, oh, Solana's done. Like this is it, right? But then like 3 months later, 6 months later, well, the devs are there, the apps are still deploying, the volume's still there, the users are still there. Okay, staying power, quite probably, right? And like now we see that, right? Like meme coin mania, everything is basically based on Solana. I think even today or yesterday there was a after Degen made their announcement with Conduit. I think someone launched a Degen on Solana, and it already has more volume than the EVM one in 24 hours, right? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, like there's definitely volume today, but there was a point when the token price was bad, the volumes were also low. Like everything is related, right? Like we can't pretend that oh, Solana was always great and like we always knew it was going to work out. But we were all users, so we felt that there is scope at some point. But like, what do you think about the fact that even today there are only 3 or 4 bridges and just like one aggregator in Jumper that supports Solana? Like, why do you feel that is, and what needs to change to actually get all of the bridges and even the dexes to kind of expand to Solana?
Um, the like short answer would be I don't know, I don't understand it. Like there's like today it's a consensus, but like even 6 months ago or a year ago, or like we've been tracking and we've seen how much it's picking up, right? Like there was nothing from a data perspective would suggest that Solana doesn't have staying power, that it doesn't have, that it's basically just like a short-term thing. Because if you like step back a bit, first they've had their own NFT mania, right? Like that lasted for quite a bit. That stopped and it was like, oh, why not? Like now meme coins came. I'm fairly certain, especially like not even going to the enterprise side, USDC settlement layers and stuff like that, that Solana's probably best positioned to support. But just on the like commercial side, where like the casino of it, where people love to trade, it's constantly picking up. So I do have a hard time like understanding why someone would not support it, unless it's just like, hey, we're building an EVM. Like, okay, this is our focus, and we're not going to venture out. Maybe there's like design or technological barriers to that, even though like, with intent-based bridges, I don't think that's really true. Um, I don't know. I think it's just like bad decision making, in a way, or maybe a feeling of like, oh, this is meme coin started. How long is this going to last? Like, are we going to really spend like 2 months of dev effort or 3 months of dev effort to support a new execution environment and kind of come late, where the fruits have already been picked in a way. So that like, again, I don't understand it. This is like maybe the reasoning, but like I really don't understand why there's no more connections. But then again, it's really good for us in a way because there's good bridges that we have in our stack that support it, and so we can enjoy being the kind of de facto place to move from
I mean,
EVM to Solana.
like there is definitely a technical challenge, right? Like even the
Mhm.
messaging bridges, they have to kind of expand to it for a Stargate to support it, right? So there's the challenge of verification across VMs. Like that tech challenge definitely is there. But like you rightly said, today there are so many intent-based bridges, right? Like
Yeah.
Relay was able to support Solana so much quicker than a legacy bridge in Across, right? Like even today, Across does not support Solana, but you can probably put that on the focus of the team. Like they are more entrenched in the EVM ecosystem. So every team has their reason, but that's what I like about like us. We're literally just going after the demand, right? Like if there's demand in the ecosystem and there's demand for like swapping, bridging, we support it. And
Yeah.
similarly, we also added Bitcoin recently, right? So like, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin as a market? And because that's also another very untapped market, right? Like only there's only Thorchain, Chainflip, and a few other bridges. It's only now that more and more bridges are kind of supporting it. Like I feel Catalyst announced something, Router announced something, Symbiosis had an announcement. So it's only now that bridges are saying, okay, there's a market to be tapped in Bitcoin, and Jumper also added it recently.
I think there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, being that we're actually pretty fresh in an environment where a lot of these technological challenges have kind of been solved. So just like as a little history moment, we actually started integrating a bridge to support Solana flows in April 2022, if you remember, right? Then second time we tried, it was like end of 2022 or like early 2023. And like every time there was like we could have done it, but the user experience would be way, way, way diminished in a way into what our users are used to. And so we didn't want to like put it into production. And only, a year ago or 8 months ago, we finally came to a spot where like, okay, the tech works. We can get everything we want because it's not just sending the assets; it's also like understanding what happens with those assets. Basically, indexing the transactions and like a lot of like fluff around that you need in a system to like have a good UX, pretty much. And I think that this is kind of on the EVM and Bitcoin side as well. There's like two things. First, most of the bridges haven't solved the EVM side for a long time, right? And then B, there's a general, I would say, disinterest, especially from like Bitcoin whales, older users, whatever, where there's actually I was on a podcast last week, and there was a Bitcoin maxi there who basically wrote a book on the Bitcoin white paper, and he's red laser eyes, everything. And he said that he likes EVM as a design space, but for him, this is all just a test net for Bitcoin. And so, like, like trying to figure it out from his perspective, like, I guess a lot of people don't think that people will actually move their Bitcoin, wrap it, make it less secure because of the what Bitcoin is in general and why do they have it. So it's like if I actually use a bridge and wrap my asset moving to EVM, like the whole kind of idea why I'm holding my Bitcoin, you're kind of going against it in a way. But then now the current of DeFi and everything, like people want their assets to be productive, right? Like you want at least like 4, 5, 6 API on your Bitcoin. Now we have Bitcoin L2s and whatever. So like it's kind of like I would say a perfect storm where like the Bitcoin design space is expanding. There's a lot of like different currents there in what direction they want to take it. So it's kind of freeing up this like, oh, Bitcoin, you just hold it in your cold wallet. Like there's finally an idea, okay, we're going to do something with our Bitcoin. And now is the time then when that design space can expand into the EVM side as well, where bridges are more secure, or tech in general is more secure, where they feel more comfortable maybe moving their assets back and forth. And again, like EVM crowd, I would say like there was ways you buy Bitcoin now is just like there's more value Bitcoin coming to EVM in a way than EVM going to Bitcoin. I think like EVM to Bitcoin is like a really late stage type thing, like taking profits and like just moving them into Bitcoin in a way. Um, and so like tech security and in general trying to make more money with your assets is kind of a combination. All three are happening at the same time. And now it is the time to start supporting it. Before, I don't think we'd have a lot of influence, pretty much. I don't
I
think it would
mean,
move the needle.
I feel like my thesis is also like you're right in saying people holding Bitcoin are now more open to experimenting with it. But like how all of us have some ETH in our hardware wallet, but then we also have ETH in our hot wallets. So Bitcoin people are also just like putting a portion of their portfolio, moving it to EVM, trying to like use it in DeFi, maybe buy meme coins on Solana or something, make more profit, and then like move it back into Bitcoin. Like they're still denominating in Bitcoin, but they're willing to kind of move a part of their portfolio into a more like risk on sort of asset. And right now it's the perfect time, right? Because more and more people are becoming more risk on, because it's technically the bull market. Like Bitcoin is at an all-time high. Some people might be booking profits and then like moving into alts. Like there's a whole flow of assets that's established today. Like Bitcoin moves, then ETH moves, and the other majors move,
Then
and then the alt,
sentient
yeah.
moves.
then my bags move.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
It-
so like on the Bitcoin side, I feel more and more bridges are going to come, and it's a good thing, right? Like we need better rates and more competition, and that's exactly what's happening right now. But like on
yeah,
the EVM side, uh, when we started out, there were like just a few chains. Slowly, that number grew to like 10 chains, 20 chains. But then at some point, this is going to grow to 100, 200, 500 chains, right? So like
thousands.
so, what are your thoughts on how the ecosystem, like the EVM ecosystem, is shaping up today?
Well, I think first, fragmentation is good for us. Fragmentation is always good for aggregators. Um, so there's a couple of things I think to respond in retrospect. I a year ago felt when we're going to have these like super easy to use roll up as a service providers that we're going to have like a roll up explosion. That a lot of apps that are accruing value were just like launch their own roll up. Um, we have that for quite a bit now, and it's not the case. I think like there's what like 50, 60 roll ups, 80, 100 million, 150 maybe. And I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it's like underperforming my expectations. And so like a couple of things like that where I'm trying to adjust what like how I feel about it in a way. I think we're going to have a lot of launches, but I also think like in a 2, 3 years time when they kind of go through their treasury, we're also going to have a lot of closures. I think a lot of these protocols or chains are not going to be able to create any flywheel effect, generate any meaningful TVL or have dApps built on them. So it's kind of like this short-term thing where people go there for like 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. There's points, there's airdrop, there's XYZ, there's like a boost, and then you basically have the mountain of despair going down. And I think that's going to happen with most of them, unless you're like Base that has access to like centralized liquidity and access to all of the Coinbase users, or Arbitrum Optimism as stacks that are already established. So I think instead of thinking in chains, like I'm starting to think more in like different stacks, like Elastic from ZK Sync, and what they're going to do, what their use case is going to be, Optimism, etc. Right? Like I don't think I think we're going to get to thousands of chains, but I think very soon we're going to go down in the 3-digit numbers. Um, Underlying still very beneficial for an aggregator because it's good for us to have more chains, more bridges, more dexes, more liquidity sources. The more we have them, the easier it is for user to go to a central place and just access it all instead of figuring out what specific bridge. The 2020 problems, like what specific bridge does this chain support, and how do I get there? How do I get the native gas token? Damn. So yeah, that's kind of the short of it.
I feel like the dead chain concept is already a reality, right? Like if you go check on L2Beat, there are probably hundreds of chains, but then there's actually a list, and like once you go down, the transactions per second is almost zero for like 50 chains, right? So it actually looks like a ghost town already just on the L2Beat page, right? My like follow up question on uh, this chain expansion is that like sure there's fragmentation, and that's good for an aggregator because we can like expand to all of these chains and help users. But then this also kind of creates bottlenecks in terms of the UX, right? Like people have to figure out a lot of different things. So I feel like that's where a lot of these concepts of abstraction and like chain abstraction for that matter would come into the picture. So like how do you see Jumper kind of adopting some of those concepts and probably improving the user experience?
Yeah. I think for new users and like subsequent users that are coming, the abstracted experience is definitely going to be a bonus if they start off with that. Um, we're going to take it slow for sure. So, for example, gas abstraction is a no-brainer. This is like, of course, like we're gonna do it, and we're gonna have it really fast, probably in about 2 weeks on Jumper, because it's just a hassle. Like this is a problem common for like power users, normies, any type of user. Like it's just a hassle of figuring out you have like gas tokens on Northern Chain or not. Um, then like multi-chain portfolio view that we've just shipped on Jumper, which kind of encompasses not just your EVM side net worth. You can connect more wallets, and you can kind of see your whole all of your assets that you have in one central spot, and you can interact with them. So you can like click on it and it pre-fills the widget, and it just like removes clicks and simplifies the experience. I like these two as an examples because the way I'm trying to think of it from a product perspective is, I don't think that chain abstracted future industry wide is going to be here for the next like 2 years. So we have like quite a bit of time. And the steps to that are going to be very, very gradual. And so what I'm trying to figure out is like, what are the improvements we can do that sit in the middle of the Venn diagram between like one Venn diagram is the DeFi power users, like the current native users, and normies. And so like, what are the problems that they both have, right? So all of them will go to debank to check their profile, meaning like having a simplified place where you actually execute to have that is in the center of that. Like gas, again, this is a problem for all of the users. When we get into like account abstraction and these like more, I don't know, specific use cases for chain abstraction, I don't think we're there. I like how they're building it at the moment. It's very siloed, and like for DeFi power users, it's not really. It's creating more fragmentation, basically. We all already have like 10 wallets and for different networks and ecosystems and whatever. Um, and then on top of that, we've been talking to our users quite a bit, and they actually don't want us to remove that, right? Like they want to see what type of route they're choosing. They want to change their own RPC. They want to have the details of the actions that they're doing. Some because like they actually want to know and they maybe care about security or speed, or like they want to pick a specific bridge. Some because they're like farming a specific protocol, so they want to like choose specifically how their assets are routed. And I think for the foreseeable future, at least the existing user base will behave like that, because we have Avocado is an example of a chain abstracted wallet experience that we have for I think more than a year, never picked up. Like Coinbase Wallet, like most of the people, me included, that I know, the comments were like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. This is actually awesome. I've used it once to try." Like it's not that much of an improvement for me to make just like a shift. Maybe it's different for me because I already have native gas tokens like that of 30 something chains, and it's like it's not a problem. Like everything works and seamlessly because we interact with it every day. But yeah, like from our side, we're definitely going to take like not go into this bandwagon of chain abstraction, if you want to call it that way, but just take it slow and gradual, and also pick winners in a way. Like I feel like this whole field at the moment is very much open design space, like throwing a dildo at the wall, seeing what sticks. In like from a funding perspective, we don't know who's going to be here like 6 months or a year from now. How do they accrue value? How do they make revenue? Like who has basically staying power? And I think we still have time to kind of see who has staying power and like what are going to be the most encompassing solutions that we can integrate without having a lot of dependencies that are actually have a good code base and like things work and people are happy with that. And you know
Mhm. I feel like abstraction is definitely always the goal, right? Like nobody wants to build a user experience that's bad. So of course, like all of us are working towards building a good experience. And like you said, gas abstraction or like gasless transactions are the step one there. Like if you think about it, today we have gasless transactions on mostly same chain swaps. Nobody even does it for like the multi-chain ecosystem, right? So just having gas abstraction for multi-chain ecosystem is already a big step in the direction. And I feel like something like Jumper always benefits from innovation in a layer below us, right? Like as across becomes faster, Stargate becomes like much more like capital efficient and gives better rates. A Jumper becomes even better, right? Like and there's also competition between these two. So and across becoming faster in the sense that they now do 10-second transactions kind of
I
pushes Stargate to like reduce bridging times. And I feel there's also innovation on an ecosystem chain level, like single slot finality and stuff like that, that's going to come up, which will make bridging faster, and as a byproduct make jumper faster, make the user experience better. You can actually play around with a lot of abstractions when these like tech advancements take place across the entire stack, right? So I feel like uh, yeah, maybe we don't need all of these abstractions for users today, but eventually we will get there slowly, and there will be like an ecosystem wide push towards it.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Like, a year ago or a year and a half ago, bridging times, bridging costs, um, the amount of chains that they supported was like really minimal. And that's also one of the reasons why we actually have 15 bridges in our stack, right? If we went to build an aggregator today, it would probably have way less bridges in the stack because like with time, Stargate and Across, for example, within their categories of like how they do bridging have kind of came up to the top. And so you don't really have to go to the third or fourth or fifth one because you're not gaining anything. At the time when we were integrating, every bridge offered you something like a little advantage here or there because everything was nascent and everything was, it was expected for, hey, the bridge is not going to work for the next 24 hours, we're doing an update. So you needed to have like fallback solutions and multi-chain story where like you really had to have fallback solutions. But yeah, anything they advance in the end is good for us because I always go back to this fragmentation, right? We're just going to have more of it, and I don't perceive users like figuring it out on their own ever. And so you always have a central spot where you go check these things. Like you can even see it on socials when Across or Stargate on a lot of these bridges, they do an update. What I read from the timeline is like screenshots from Jumper where users notice the upgrade or the change, not on like Across UI or Stargate UI, right? Because this is like, it's easier. Like they know, okay, I'm gonna get served everything. If like Across has suddenly yesterday done some XYZ update, I'm gonna get it on Jumper. I don't need to like go check Across or Stargate or any third bridge for my routes, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, Jumper's main edge is the distribution, right? Because at the end of the day, we're an aggregator, and on a tech perspective, there are always so many different options, right? And you like Jumper's main advantage is the fact that there are users, and then what you can do with the users once they're on your front end is plenty of things. And I know we have the loyalty pass, and that like people think about it as points because that's the meta, like people can think about it like that, but there's a bigger picture behind it, right? So beyond the tech side, like what's your thesis for building out the loyalty pass? Because I know we're doing a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in our industry, tech is not the mode. I think we can all agree on that. Everybody can copy whoever. And so the idea in general started with, okay, how do we build a system that creates a moat above the tech in a way? Like what can we as a protocol offer to the users that is not like token incentive from our treasury or any type of inflation for the token, or like just like because we don't have a token. But even if we did, I don't think it's the smartest way to spend it because it's just not sustainable and scalable into like 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. Um, then on the same side, especially like 2022 when we started designing this, the centralized identity and ideas around that were also very nascent. You didn't have really like these cool solutions that would represent you on chain. That like I can go click a link and see, oh, Arjun is actually like a power user, 20 chains. He's doing X amount of volume, and he's used that many bridges, and has all of these NFTs. And like you can because everything's public ledger, but you actually have to go out of your way and figure it out. It's not like representable, and it's not something that a third party can call through an API and based on that grant you something, like give you a reward, give you access or something. So this is kind of the idea where Loyalty Pass started. The idea was, okay, let's start kind of quantifying what users are doing. Good for us, we get more data, we kind of understand users' behaviors, but let's show it to them as well. So they see, it's just like a human vanity thing. You want to see your progress, you want to see your rank, you want to see where you sit, and stuff like that. Then once we kind of build this initial system and users were happy with it, then we kind of took it a step further and started figuring that our users are actually very valuable. They're high intent. So if you're coming to Jumper, you have an intent to go to a chain and to do something with your capital. and they're super active. So like in general, cross-chain users are much more active than like same-chain users or like this tribalistic, I'm just on Solana and stuff like that, right? There's just like a lot more things to do because now you're like 5, 7, 8, 10, 12 chains, whatever. And so on the other hand, you have this like large problem in targeting from the protocols. Like the methods are very Web2 like. The inventory where like you can show your ads or whatever, it's very Web2 like the conversion rates are really low. So we wanted to kind of fix that gap. Here's the users that are like super active, they have the capital, they have the intention, they have the knowledge. On the other hand, here are the protocols that have money, they use that money for user acquisition. That user acquisition sucks pretty much. And so what we managed to do is basically connect the two sides. So loyalty pass basically sits at the center where protocols through the loyalty pass incentivize users to explore their ecosystem, right? Users are incentivized for their time and effort, while at the same time, protocols ecosystems are getting new users. And so this is kind of the foundational basis of the loyalty pass that now we're building kind of on. The end state of the loyalty pass, hopefully within a year and a half, is for it to be a standalone product that think like cross-chain Degen score with a lot more functionalities and fully permissionless. So think like I'm a new lending market and I want to vampire attack my competitor, whatever. Well, you can do it through loyalty pass. Like you can actually go very specific in terms of what type of user you're getting. You can say, hey, like Arjun, you've done a lot of volume on lending markets. You repay your loans like in time. You're never been liquidated. You're a pretty good user. We're going to give you better rates just to invite you or whatever. So there's like a lot of these game theory aspects that user protocol can use on top of that. So currently we're dog fooding it in a way, right? Like we're the ones who are approaching the protocol. We have a BD team, and like we're kind of hand holding them into it. But now, like after Superfest, Berachain upcoming, and a lot of these protocols, others will see, okay, it's actually not that, like, you don't need us in a way, right? Like, we don't want you to need us. Like, at this point, you do, because we're the ones who have like 3 years of knowledge of doing campaigns, quests, organizing it, and doing user acquisition through this. So we can actually plan it well, much better than someone who's just like, oh, let's do a Galaxy campaign. But I think this is kind of shaping into a permissionless system where others can just like plug into. So if you want to, incentivize a specific pool to a specific type of user, you can do that. Easy.
And then like it's already happening actually. We've had so many different projects airdrop tokens to certain levels of the loyalty pass, and then even certain campaigns target certain levels or certain like traits in the loyalty pass, right? So all of these game theory kind of features are already playing out, but like you said, we have to kind of connect the dots for the ecosystem
Yeah,
teams and the other teams. And I've already seen how some teams have managed to put themselves on the radar through Jumper's community and like through the loyalty pass. So it's actually pretty useful, and I feel like teams will continue using it in different ways that even we don't know today.
for sure. And like one of the things, I think a year ago, I did a talk at ETH Belgrade, and the idea, like the topic of the talk was points, and in general loyalty systems in Web2 and Web3 and how they work and how they operate. And one of the things as a kind of shortfall for points in Web3 or in general loyalty systems, for me, was the short-sightedness. It was always organized for a specific event, let's say a TGE, an airdrop, or whatever, right? Like, and you never have the vision of what happens after. Why would someone care? And I think we understood this quite early, and we've managed to build a system that like completely removed this point in time that someone is waiting for, right? If you are a Jumper user for the past 2 years, and you like not you don't even have to be a power user, right? Like just like a normal user, you can have like $1,000 net worth, $500 net worth, whatever. But like you were continuously exploring with us, going through the chains, partners, whatever, like going through the campaigns that we were providing you. You've most probably made more money than any airdrop in the past 2 years, right? Without us spending our treasury, these protocols that gave these incentives are happy because they know the type of user they're getting. It's not just like wide spray and pray, pretty much. And so I think that's actually pretty powerful, and we see that from our community as well, right? If you just compare, Jumper socials versus like competitor socials, the when token question is not really popping up that much. Like, there's always going to be, like the last comment somewhere down, someone will like say it, but the engagement is not around that. Like, it's much more like deep in a way, profound. Like, it's much more connected versus just an expectation of a of a token that usually people do.
Yeah, I feel like the loyalty pass is pretty cool, and even though the comms can get tricky at times, because like you said, there's a bigger picture at play, right? And even if the teams cannot see it, so for us to communicate to a direct user, it's tricky to do at scale, right? So there are challenges, but I feel like it will be worth it. Just like last question before we wrap it up. Uh, what are your targets for Jumper for the bull market? Like how much volume do you need to see going through Jumper on a daily basis for you to feel like, okay, we've done a good job?
100 million a day for me to start feeling good. Um, 500 million to a billion a day where I'm like, okay, like, okay, we're nice. I like it. This is like not now at 500 to a billion a day, I would like feel, okay, we're successful. Like we've like really done everything we wanted to do properly. So still a long way to go for sure. But not unattainable.
Yeah. I mean, we can only work towards it. And then bull market can hopefully do its thing and all of our volumes go up.
Yeah, I mean, like today, there's not even that much volume to go around to have these daily volumes. So of course, we're hoping for a frenzy now that the I guess U.S. administration is more favorable towards digital assets. I hope the kind of media perception around it will change as well. And I guess the best marketing is price goes up. So when I
What are
think
you what
it's
are your
also
personal targets for the bull market? Like what do you hope to achieve personally? Like leave jumpers aside. Like what are your goals personally to optimize or like maximize the bull market this time?
Well, I'm for the first, this is my third cycle and I still haven't made it. Um, so, given my history, I don't know if I'm going to make it this cycle as well. I am doing one thing smarter though. I am taking profits into majors. And so basically like my ETH, Sol and Bitcoin positions are just loop collateral. I just leverage it safely. And so the idea is when either there's like a massive froth, like Elon on CNL moment type of thing, something that's like really this sounds like a top signal, or like I don't know, $8,000-10,000 ETH. I'm starting to sell. Like at that point, I don't even care if it's going to go to 20. I'm just going to like book profits because I've round trip massively for 2 times. I really don't want to do it the third time. So we'll see. But this is kind of the general idea. I'm finally taking profits. Like I didn't do that before. And that's probably one of the reasons I round trip because at one point you just have so many wallets, so many tokens in those wallets that it's just like how to keep track. And you do 30x on a token, but you go back and you're negative after a while because you didn't take any profit. So now I'm taking profit. I do again feel bad because the token continues going up. Happened with sentient memes. I had an itchy finger, so I sold most of it, and then had to rebuy at a higher price. But
Yeah.
still learning.
I mean, I feel like as long as you don't blow yourself on leverage, and also like there's also a good friend circle around this time. I feel,
Yeah,
at least for me, like this is my first cycle technically because I joined crypto in the blow off top of the last cycle, right? And did not have any money, so there's no way I could have made it. But I feel like we have a good ecosystem and like better thinking towards the bull market. So I have a good feeling about it for sure.
for sure. I think that I haven't mentioned that, but now that you say it, this is actually pretty crucial because I was pretty isolated. So I was like before I was a pure trader. I was just trading. Um, and it was like technicals and that was it, right? Like I did a bit of research into projects I like, but like usually these projects weren't the projects I was, trading on because XYZ stupid reasons. Now where there's actually a lot of us doing different things but same things in a way, and we talk about it and share experiences, and like you get a lot of these, how to put it, like you get a lot of information from Twitter, but it's really difficult to sift like signal from noise, when you're the exit liquidity, when and so a lot of this information is not actionable. But like when the people, like we work together or there's our friends and we're in a group and like everybody's sharing their opinions and someone heard this and someone heard that, there's a higher evaluation of the information you're getting. And so it's a lot better to learn that way. And so for example, I know for example, there was a person in our group that said for, I think it was GOAT or something, okay, this is a top signal, I'm selling. And I was like, I don't know. And I didn't sell, and it was a top. And so like now, next time he says something like that, I'm gonna be like, yeah, if I don't agree 100%, I'll sell 50%. Like I'll at least have something more actionable. If I didn't know him and he said that on Twitter, I'd be like, yeah, like just shilling your bags or doing whatever. So I think like having the support system is super, super important. So I do hope we're all gonna make it a cycle.
I think there's no better way to end it. I don't think we can top it off. So let's just end it at that. I hope all of us can make it this cycle. And I hope that Jumper is at the center of it all.
Likewise. Thank you, Arjun, for having me.